Hello everyone and welcome back to Football Forecast. In today's video I'm going to be previewing probably the game of the weekend between Arsenal and Manchester City. If you enjoy what you see, it'd be great if you could subscribe to the channel to help support me as I'm really trying to grow the channel. And please let me know your thoughts on this game and what you expect to happen in the game. I mean, this game is a very interesting one because Liverpool play before them, and it'll be interesting to see, can Liverpool get the result against Everton? If Liverpool do get that result against Everton, then all of a sudden this game becomes very must-win because the gap between either side could very much increase. If it's Arsenal, it could be 5 or 6 points. If it's Manchester City, it could be 8 or 9. And look, that's not the end of the world at this stage of the season, but we saw last year with Liverpool, they were very hard to catch once they got out into a bit of a lead, and the lead never really changed over. So I do think this is an important game for both sides, as well as this. This is going to be fascinating because we've seen the past of this sort of game. It's very, very tactical. Players not probably given the sort of freedom that they'd like to, and it's all been about the sort of how can the managers sort of outthink each other, and it's often a very tactical game. And yeah, we often see either a really low scoring game or quite a high scoring game. The high scoring games have come when one side is clearly better than the other. I'm not so sure if we have this for this game coming up. So here what you can see is the results between these two teams when Arsenal have been part of the title race. So you've got Arsenal smashing Manchester City. We've got Manchester City, Arsenal 2-2, which was when the Arsenal had that red card. That will be an important part, is to avoid those sort of problems. They've had those problems in the past in these big games, Arsenal, or they've just had discipline problems. So I'm sure Arteta will be in the message across, we can't afford red cards. The 0-0 where Arsenal sort of played for a draw, something I criticised, and it did turn out to be correct because Arsenal couldn't pick up enough points to surpass Manchester City. Then Arsenal won, Manchester City 0, a very boring game, and this is one of the tactical games. It really was. It was almost like they were playing chess. It was all about sort of stopping the other person and trying to find a weakness point, and I think it probably resulted in quite a boring game. Then you've got the next Prem game was the 4-1 between Manchester City and Arsenal, which ended, I think, basically Arsenal having any chance of winning the league, and this is when Arsenal came in really bad form, and then Manchester City once again winning against Arsenal. So it's been a pretty balanced sort of results over the time, but I think what you notice is the team that's on form or on better form usually wins this game, or the game ends in a draw. We haven't really seen many results that you would expect or wouldn't expect to or any results you wouldn't expect to happen recently in these games. And the games where it's been like one-sided have been high scoring, but then the games where you'd sort of go, oh, both sides are similar, have either been low scoring or have ended in draws. So I think that's sort of what we're going to expect, is a low scoring game based off that record. So then the obvious question is, how have both sides actually started the season? Well, you're about to see from this, Arsenal have been pretty good so far this season. They've won 4 out of 5 games, but they have struggled in the Liverpool and I'd probably say the United game where they were pretty lucky to get 3 points. And I think that probably comes down to playing away from home, where Arteta's always gone with a bit more of a defensive approach, more concerned about, I think, conceding than actually scoring and making sure they get the win. Manchester City have had a pretty mixed start, I think it's fair to say. They've once again struggled in certain games but look good in others. They look good against Wolves, and they struggle against Spurs, they struggled against Brighton, they struggled against And then they did well against Manchester United, and the Napoli game was sort of already decided when they went down to 10 men. It was always about breaking Napoli down, and I think City will be all right with their start, but I think where they've really not been great is defensively, and I think that will give Arsenal a chance to definitely expose this at some point. So, who are the key players going to this game? Well, first of all, Victor Gyokeres and Erling Halland, who have both started pretty well. Gyokeres isn't impressed though against the top sides, and I think this theme may well continue. And I think Victor Gyokeres will blank once again against a top side, and I think he'll be not involved that much because I don't expect Arteta to sort of suit a system that gets the best out of a striker, as he's struggled to do this, especially away from home. So maybe it will be slightly different at home. Haaland has started the season once again, as he always does, so well. He's so good at starting a season, so I do think this could be a real problem for Arsenal, having to deal with Erling Haaland. Obviously, I think where Arsenal are stronger is their defence. Even with Mosquera playing, I think Arsenal got a better defence with Gabriel and Mosquera than whoever City play there. And I think the fullbacks, Arsenal's fullbacks are some of the best in the league. City's fullbacks, I would say, aren't even close to Arsenal's second best fullback. So I think that's somewhere where the game could be changed. But Manchester City have also shown some very good sort of form with some players like Phil Foden and Jeremy Doku. Foden especially, who's struggled for Alfred say over a year, has looked good in the last week, and I wonder if he might be able to take this form into the game. He looked good against Napoli and excellent against Manchester United. So yeah, maybe that's somewhere where Manchester City can exploit. But I think another key reason to note is Arsenal have had 4 days off, Manchester City have had only a couple of days off, and that can affect a game when you don't have that sort of time off that Manchester City would have wanted going into this game, as well as them still not being very consistent defensively. And for that reason, I'm going to go with 1-0 to Arsenal as my final score. I think Arsenal will just have enough to get over the line. I think their defensive sort of approach, but also their defensive solidity will allow them to keep a clean sheet. And I think they'll be able to expose the fact that Manchester City's defence is clearly still struggling. Please let me know your thoughts and your prediction. And also, as I said, if you enjoy this video, it'd be great if you could subscribe to the YouTube channel, as any support would be greatly appreciated.